Ghartey, the footballer, from Wise to Has. We, the phobians on this committee who are in the majority, would like to know where your heart is, so that when it comes to the decision making, we know how to consider it.
Over the time, Boankra wants to lose me my seat the next time because his country is basically a Wise city. Thankfully for me, today there are different divisions. So when you talk about the Premier Division, my heart is with Hearts. When you talk about First Division, my heart is with Wise. When both of them come to one division, then I'll take it. I'll advise him accordingly. I've been told by a colleague here that then I should go to Blasters. Then I don't get any trouble.
Wise one. I want to begin with the name. The communication from His Excellency the President has Joe Nana Ghartey. Nana appears, but on your CV there is no Nana. So just for our records, consistency.
Nana Ghartey is sitting behind me, so I should be careful what I say. But the middle name given to me by my father was Nana Kobna Akwa, J-N-K-A Ghartey. The Akwa is A-K-W-A-A. So the president, I worked in his chambers. So I don't know whether, I'm sure you remembered it and said it, but I've dropped all the middle names a long time ago, and I'm just known as simple Joe Ghartey. In some countries, I hear when you attempt so an academic position and so on, you can say PhD attempted or LLB attempted. We don't have that habit in Ghana. So if I had succeeded as president, then I would have put it in my CV. But I didn't succeed, so it's not part of my CV. We don't take attempted, it's not part of the CV in Ghana.
I will take it that the ambitions are life.
When they asked, Mr. Chairman, when they asked Jesus, are you the king of the Jews, his answer is that you said so.
Mr. Chairman, the Honorable Speaker does not provide information on his numerous conferences, I'm sure, and workshops, as we would have wished you provided per the template we gave. Any particular reason why?
One of the problems I had was that your template demanded some form of exactitude. I mean, you had to state the time, the place. For example, I have certificates in ADR and so on and so forth. But unfortunately, I couldn't find the dates and so on. And I've been monitoring. I must confess, I still a glance at your vetting, and I didn't want to come and sit here and face 2 hours of what date and so on. So I thought that the wiser thing was to leave it out. So that's why I left it out.
You profess to be a legal advisor to Supporters Union of Accra Hazelfolk Sporting Club. In my dealings with you when I served you faithfully as a lawyer, I never found any moment in time that we're professing to know matters about sports. So what kind of legal advice do you give the union? I'm very curious.
The first is that I didn't trust you when it came to sports. You didn't indicate to me that you were a supporter. So I taught you a lot, but I kept that a secret from you. But I've been very active in sports in terms of legal matters. I've represented them in various cases at the GFA. I have a deep interest in sports law. Sports law is one of the undeveloped areas of law. In some countries, it's one of the richest areas. And as we continue to develop our sports and go into merchandising and marketing and advertising and so on, we will see that hopefully more lawyers will pay attention to sports law. Unfortunately for us, I'm not the sports minister, of course, but our game is dying. I remember when I was a young man, I used to go and watch Hearts and Kotoko at the Crown Sports Stadium. You have to get there at 6 o'clock in the morning. And horses will be, policemen with horses will be attacking us with whips. And even when they hit you on the back, you don't feel it because you want to go and watch the match. Today, we are even struggling to fill our stadium. So it's my prayer that young lawyers listen to me, will take it up, young administrators, and lift the game up.
Boankra project in Ashanti region is very important.
Please, kindly hold on. Are there any more questions on the CV before I proceed to the main meet? Very well, then you may proceed. We won't return to the CV. Go on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, The Boankra project in Ashanti region is very key to the development of our maritime industry, in particular in the nation at large. To make it effective, we need a very strong rail services, right from the Tema port or Takoradi port, cutting the containers to Boankra. May I find out from you, I'm sure you might have gone through some literature on this Boankra project. What do you intend to do, or what are your plans in terms of railway services connecting the ports to Boankra to make it operational? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, I was going to say Mr. Speaker. I think that the Boankra project is part of the Railway Master Plan that was done in 2013 by the Ghana Railway Development Authority. I think that it is clear. Boankra is a typical example of the fact that the ports are at risk if we don't develop our rail. It's not only Boankra. If you take Takoradi, for example, and I'm sorry, I hope I've answered the Boankra question. I'll say it's an integral part of the plan. But if you take Takoradi, for example, 2 days ago I was reading Ghanaian Times. It was stated quite clearly that the expansion of the port has taken place and the ships have started coming in. The draft has moved from 6 feet to 16 feet, which means for that the vessels that can come now, the manganese and bauxite vessels that can come, they can come right up to the quay, and they can take up to 100,000 tons of whatever mineral they are taking. Now, these vessels, because of demurrage and so on, they don't want to stay for a long time. And if they are there for 5 days, 100,000 tons, with trucks, even if we give the trucks an axle load of 50 metric tons per truck, and that is very, very generous, you will need 20,000 trucks to carry the bauxite from a place like Insuta to the port. That is Armageddon. It's like the end of the world. I mean, imagine 20,000 trucks hurtling from Takoradi to the port in 5 days. The world will come to an end along those parts. It will be an environmental disaster. It will be a traffic disaster. It will affect the infrastructure disaster. It will be a disaster, total disaster. And so it's not only Boankra. The place where we have reached in the development of this nation, the port, Boankra, ourselves as a people, we cannot do without developing the rail. And the Boankra question is a question that, when being answered, is a good example of the necessity for us as a nation to take rail development seriously. In just a few minutes, explaining the master plan to you, and it will help you, it will position all of us, all of the committee members, it will position all of you to investigate the issue more. Not appreciate, I know you appreciate already, but you will ask me more questions. And if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, I will stand. Mr. Chairman, this whole development of rail started in 1898. Now, one of the reasons why there were different interests. There were some of the colonialists who wanted it to be used to develop mining, and there were some of them who wanted it to be used to develop agriculture. The mining people won, because the governor at the time, who I believe was called McLean, I think so, had just come from Malay, where they used rail to develop tin. So they started from Sekendi in 1898. The chairman, by 1901, they had reached Takwa. By 1902, they had reached Obuasi, your constituent. Obuasi, no, we have reached Obuasi, not your constituent, sorry. Your neighbors. And the chairman, and that is the red line that you can see here. And then, by 1903, they had reached Kumasi. They went to Obuasi because of economic reasons, but they went to Kumasi because of military domination. It was easy for them to transport troops quickly from the coast to Kumasi. I want you to bear in mind, Honorable Mr. Chairman, that the time that they used to contract, 1898 to 1903, 4 years, 5 years. Then, 1909, this development, and that is called the Western Line. It was narrow gauge. Mr. Chairman, by 1909, they had decided to start developing from Accra towards Kumasi. There was a certain dispute whether they should start from Accra or Pam, but Accra got the better of the day because it was the capital at the time. They reached Kumasi in 1923. You will say that they kept long, yes, because there were floods around here, 1910, 1912, and also the First World War also prevented them from moving that fast. Then this line here, the central line here, started in 1926. And it was influenced mainly because of timber exports, the Kede area and that whole area. And then in 1956, they continued it on this yellow line that you see, the base. Now the total of all these lines that I talk about at 1950 was about 935 kilometers. It was narrow gauge. Today, as we speak, only 13% of that is still operational. The 13% of that which is still operational is about 130-something 30-something kilometers. Now, out of the one that is still operational, there's a lot of it which is operational in quotes, if I may say so. For example, 40 kilometers from Isahome to Accra is iffy. It's bad. I mean, the rails and so on. Now, from 1956, the next thing of significance that happened in this industry was not the construction of rail. The next thing that happened of significance was the division of Gapoa and railway. That happened in the 70s. And then railway also became a company, a limited liability company subsequently. And recently, I'll come to the recent development, that is Tema-Akosobo. But let me just say that between 1898 and 1931, 31.4% of the GDP, and the research is here, I can lay it on table, 31% of the capital expenditure of the colonial government was spent on railway. It did one thing. The rails were built by the colonial masters for their interests, but at the same time, it created a boom in cocoa never seen before. It made Ghana, or Gold Coast then, the richest colony in Africa, because they were carrying cocoa on their heads, headbands, on their heads from the bush to the coast. And now they could put cocoa into a moving locomotive. They grew so much cocoa in these areas that what happened was that there was a food shortage in these areas. The farmers stopped growing cash crops, they were growing cocoa. Mr. Chairman, the researchers describe the impact of this on economic development as a persistence of economic development. Over 100 years after the rails have collapsed, the areas along the rail path are more developed than the areas that are not along the rail path. Subsequent to this, in 2008, one of the last things that was done was that in 2009, an act was passed, 6th January or something, the Ghana Railways Act, which led to the creation of a Ghana Railway Development Authority. 2008, government had commissioned a study as to the viability of the Tema-Akosobo line. And the new government followed it in according to the dictates of the Constitution. As we are all aware, not too long ago, the 85 kilometers of the Tema-Akosobo line has been approved by Parliament. It is our desire to go to Paga, as is stated in our manifesto. The President has made it clear that his aim is to go to Paga. There are two ways of going to Paga. We can go Tema-Akosobo via the Volta River, drop off at Bupe, and from Bupe, go to Paga. We intend to do that. But this blue line is called the Central Spine. From Kumasi to Bupe, this area forms the breadbasket of this nation. We are convinced beyond reasonable doubt that if this line is developed, the price of foodstuffs, the economic benefits will be it will be unimaginable. Mr. Chairman, fuel is 50% less if it's carried by rail. Cocoa is 25% less if it's carried by rail. And people see rail and they see the tracks and the rail going. The chairman, some of us see rail, we see something different. We see a growth of an economy that we can't even begin to explain. We see what can happen. We see the growth of new cities. One of your members, Mr. Chairman, talked about Boankra. Boankra is excellent. But where the rail will terminate around Paga will create a new city. If you think about it, when our first president thought about Tema was based entirely on the port. It was based entirely on the cargo that would come there. What is Ghana Ports Harbour Authority? It's a landlord which has created a port, and it makes money out of rent, and it hires out services to people. We shall create a completely new city in the north where it terminates, and the landlord will be Ghana, will be the railway service, part of the railway sector. And Mr. Chairman, if we believe the research, which I do believe, because there's physical evidence, what will happen in Ghana if we agree to expand the railway is an economic explosion. What we are thinking about the transformation of the economy can only happen, or will happen the fastest, if we invest in the railway. The chairman, people, after this, we have two lines. We have the Eastern Line extension, and we have the Western Line extension. Along this line are also some mineral deposits. Along this line goes to Yendi, passes here to Yendi, and Yendi we know we have iron ore there. The iron ore in Yendi, the bauxite in Chebi, these minerals are not economically viable because we don't have rail to those areas. The means of transport makes it economically unattractive. And so this is the master plan done by Ghana Railway Authority. We are Railway Development Authority. We are focusing on redoing the Western Line, the Eastern Line, of course, Temako-Sombo, and then also starting to attack what we call the Central Spine. The total project of all of this, the master plan, is $21 billion. That's the total project. But if you look at the Central Spine, it can be done with our $5 billion. Yesterday, I was watching you, and the roads minister said that the arrears in roads is about 17 billion cedis, which is about $4 billion. If that one is given to railway development, if we don't reach Canaan, which is Paga, we will get near Canaan, like Moses.
As I plow through development in the railway sector, now they're thinking about maglev, that is magnetic. They're thinking about electric. I know we are thinking about locomotive, the general train. Are we planning to take care of these things as we look into the future?
The various proposals that we have are very interesting. There are people who have come forward who talked about electric trains, for example, using electricity. And I said to them that, well, our electricity, sometimes we have challenges. Some of them believe that they can generate their own electricity purposely for this purpose. So I assure you that we are not going to do trains that belong to the last century. We are going to do trains that belong to this century. If I tell you we are going to do bullet trains, I'll be lying to you. And I've sworn on oath, so I won't engage in lying. But we are moving to trains which go 100, 120 kilometers per hour. If I'm going to my constituency, or if you are going to your constituency, where we are next to each other, somebody who starts from here and is going to Dawaya, hopefully will reach home before the person reaches home. So 100, 120, that's what we are doing.
There has been a problem, serious problem between the traditional authorities who gave out the land for the construction of the railway headquarters in Accra and the Railway Development Authority. How, because of issues about compensation and also issues about railway workers themselves ceding off some of the lands for people to build shops and things. How do you hope to resolve this issue, counter the fact that that place is a principal point of railway movement in Ghana?
We have to develop a model that includes the traditional authorities. And it's not only about railway. The development model that we develop in this country must include traditional authorities. I've always believed that instead of compensation, there can be partakers. Instead of them just being compensated one-off, they can partake in the economic windfall that will occur. That area, yes, is a railway and it's going to be a railway station, but it can be redeveloped. I went to stand there in the night. On the left was NIB, opposite which was the new merchant bank, I think they call it Universal Merchant Bank, and on the side was Liberty, Ghana Commercial Bank. Now, when you face the railway, on the other side are warehouses and so on, and then you go to Kantomanto. A serious developer can totally transform the place and incorporate in it as well a railway in a manner that the traditional authorities also will partake in that they will continuously get money out of it. When you look at, for example, Kantomanto, and I've had a chat with, I had a chat with a number of young men in Kantomanto. They didn't know I was a railway. I'd been designated for railway. Very interesting. I asked them, oh, if they come and develop here, they are ready for development. And that is the challenge, one of the challenges Honorable Obiama, stakeholder involvement. We can't just go and sack them and not think about how we incorporate them into the whole development mechanism. The railway doesn't have money. We don't have a lot of money. We are trying to raise 5 billion. We get to Paga. We want huge land to develop a city. We can't go. I don't intend us going to buy land. I intend us partnering the traditional authorities there. And so it is negotiation, it is stakeholder involvement, it is selling a vision, and it is showing them the benefit that will come to the nation, to them as well. And I hope that, God willing, and with your help, you are the member of parliament there, we can do something for this nation. That's all.
I want to talk about the connectedness between the integrated aluminium industry and the railway, having regard to Inahin and the Chebi Baako connection. How do you see the establishment of a very good railway system bringing about the integrated aluminium industry?
Honorable Chairman, on the central line, from Kede to Chebi is 5 kilometers. 5 kilometers, rule of thumb, $3 million per kilometer. Those 5 kilometers, I think if the honorable member will be kind enough to pledge us $1 million per constituency to that project, it will help us do the Chebi to Kede. Or at least if I get his support, we can raise the money. But the truth of the matter is that we have to have rail to make that viable. And I'm fully committed to getting it done. This Ministry of Railway Development must, as a matter of necessity, cooperate with all other ministries, including the Ministry of Mines, Trade and Industry, and so on. So we are going to do that railway, and hopefully you will see the benefits of an integrated aluminium industry. Thank you.
A certain belief, I don't know how credible that is, that there is a strong haulage lobby out there, and that it is not in the interest of the haulage lobby to have a vibrant railway sector. We are told that the Sekondi Takoradi project, for example, has really cost the haulage companies because obviously, as you have eloquently put out, it's cheaper. It makes economic sense to use rails to transport goods than if you were transporting them by road. How do you respond to that suspicion out there that there's a haulage lobby that consistently stifles the progress that this nation ought to make in railway development? And do you also consider an opportunity with cargo owners, where cargo owners can be brought on board to, for example, help us with the funding arrangement you have been discussing earlier, so that there can be some off-taker agreement with these cargo owners as a means of raising funds to develop the railway sector?
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for the question, and I want to thank you for the answer you have provided in the question. Because that was just what I was come to say. It's a partnership. We must see it as a partnership. We must recognize that everything you do, you threaten other people. People like what is there. They don't like change. But we must explain to them that this is a change that we can all benefit from. Let's even talk about the trotros and so on. I mean, if you have a train that is taking 1,000 people to one point, a collector point, can you imagine, instead of the taxis and trotro drivers waiting for passengers to come, they wait sometimes, they wait buses one day, they wait hours. They are sitting there in 30 minutes, 1,000 people are deposited to them, and then they can take them to their various points. Thankfully, the rail does not have the characteristics of a road, and it goes on straight line. Because we are going to the standard gauge, even we'll be going on straighter lines, going faster. So I think that with negotiation, with openness, with humility, we can enter into some kind of collaboration with all stakeholders, including the people you talk about, for the interest of Ghana.
Only two have come to make detailed flow chart and map presentations, and those two have something in common. They are all presidential aspirants.
The chairman, Honorable Obidola Blackwell, seems to be obsessed with this presidential thing. I don't know whether he has aspirations himself. So he's trying to find out who his potential opponents are in the future. You shouldn't worry about me. You shouldn't worry about me.
Mr. Chairman, I can assure him that I'm nowhere near that. The second observation is that the Ghana Railway Master Plan, I thought that you will have given a little credit to President Mahama. He commissioned it in 2014, and we are excited that you have mastered the master plan and you are committing to follow the master plan. But my last question has to do with some, I would say, quite a disturbing news article I read a few days ago. I don't know how accurate it is, that the CEO of the Ghana Railway Development Company has been fired. I'm told by industry people that he's the only railway engineer we have in the railway development company and the entire railway development sector. And you have such great plans, you want to implement the master plan. Do you think that this will augur well, being the only railway engineer we have in Ghana at the moment, at least for institutional memory and all of that? Couldn't you find something else, even engage him maybe as a consultant or something, if you have another CEO in mind? But to totally relieve him, wouldn't that affect your vision and your plan for the sector?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I didn't see that news item. If I had seen it and seen its tenor, maybe then I'll be in a better position to respond to it. But I intend to harness all the expertise in that area. When I was talking, I made the point that when you go to Ghana Railway Company Limited, for example, the senior engineer is 23 years experience in railways. The next one has 3 months. So even those who are no longer there, we are going to bring them on board in various capacities. We are going to create new institutions. We are going to expand this thing. And so it's all hands on deck. And to acknowledge former President Mahama is a very simple thing for me to do. But for me, I regret to say that the railway for me is bigger than political parties. I think that, as President Akufo-Addo said, it is the tragedy of our development. And we recognize the impact that every government made. For example, I talked about the Temako-Sobo line, which occurred in President Mahama's time. I don't have any problem at all giving praise where praise is due. But if I may just say one thing that I left out, Mr. Chairman, the railways will also unite the country. It will bring people together. It will bring cultures together. We'll get to know each other better. United we stand, divided we fall.